Hi everyone, welcome back once again. So today's topic is we are going to understand how to read and write records into a file. So what we are going to do is basically read and write data simultaneously. Simultaneously means we'll be reading the data, or we'll be first writing the data onto a file, and then we will be reading that data in the same program, and we will display that onto the screen. Okay, so the two new methods that we are going to learn in this tutorial is the seek method, which is very important, and then the flush method. Okay, and another thing that we are going to learn is a delimiter. So we'll just understand this over the program. Okay, so we will start it. So the first thing that I require is a file handle, and I open a file, for example student.txt. Now in my last two tutorials we have learned how to open a file into a read mode and a write mode, right? So for a read mode we use the R, and for the write mode we use the W. So but over here what we need to do is we are going to read and write the both operations we need to perform. So in this case what we need to do is you can use R plus. So R plus means we can read and write the data with this particular file handle. Okay, we can perform the write up operation, and we can also perform the read operation. uh, but if the file, that student.txt, if this file does not exist, in that case then this will throw an error. Okay, so if you want that the file should exist, so what you can do is you can use a W. So this basically will mean that you can do the both operations, read and write, but if the file does not exist it will get created. And another thing we have is the append mode. So even this will create a new file, and if there is some existing data, so that data will be retained, and then we will whatever operation we perform, that is a write or read. If you perform a write operation, then obviously the previous records will be retained and the new records will be written at the end of the file. Okay, so it will get append. So this is what we these particular modes means. Okay, so for now I'm just going to use the W plus because maybe we don't have this file. So you can use any mode as per your convenience basically, but you just need to be careful for the R plus. If the file does not exist, so then this mode will throw an error, because if you try to perform the write operation, so basically Python will try to search for this file. Okay, so I'm just using this W plus mode. So that's done. Now the mode has been specified, and now I need to write a record. Now record is a one complete entity of an object, you can say. Now object can be anything, a person or a car, anything. So for example student is also an object. So student has many attributes. Attributes means the informations or the fields, you can say, about a particular student. So what all information we require of a student to store it in a data, to store it as a data. So basically it requires a student roll number. So I'm taking very few attributes or very few fields at since this is just an example. Otherwise student can have many informations, right? A lot of things we need to store about a student. So I will just keep it very short. That is a roll number. So roll number, then I will just accept the roll number as an integer, and I say enter roll number. So I'm accepting a roll number of a student, isn't it? And then I'm saying name, which is very important, and I simply say input and enter student name. Okay, and maybe class, I can take a class. So class is a keyword, so just I'll make that C as capital, and I say input. Okay, I just take that as a string, enter class. Okay, and then last I can take it as a section, and I say input, and I say enter the student section. That's it. So I'll just keep it very short. I'll just accept four fields for a particular student, and then I will store this as a record. Now, how you can store this as a record? For that, we need to understand what is a delimiter. Okay, so the delimiter. So basically, a delimiter is like something that separates the units of a particular record. For example, this example like roll number. I'm going to store the roll number. Okay, so roll number, if I store this as together, so like name, okay, and then I say class, and then I say section, that's okay, I can do this. But then when I read it back, I'm reading that this data back, so then it's very difficult for me to understand which is roll number and which is the name from where it starts, and then the class section. So I cannot identify the units basically of this particular record. So in that case, we require a delimiter. So delimiter is like a character that separates this units. So I can use any character. I can use a comma over here. So you can see, okay, okay, over here, right, I can use a comma, and then you can see now this is very much, I can identify the units. But the comma is something that maybe the user can enter by mistake, or something can happen. The user comma is something that we quite often use. So something that the user cannot use such a character. So for example, I can use a character like this tilde sign. So this is one character that we have. So you can use this tilde sign, and I'm using this one. You can use any character. You can use a comma, you can use a tab character, any character you can use, but it should be something that user is not going to enter that character. Because what happens if he uses that character in as a tab, he uses that tab and then the name of the class, or tab and name of the student name. So in that case, that reading will be done in a wrong way. Okay, so understand this. So I'm just using this sign. Now you can see. So this is how, in this format, basically we are going to write the data onto the file. So how we are going to do that? So simple file handle, and I say write, and then that is a roll number. Now roll number is a string, sorry, it is a integer, so I just need to convert that into a strings. Okay, so I'm saying roll number, that is str function. So this converts this integer into a string, and then I need to join that with a delimiter, that is the tilde sign, and then I will say name. Again, I will concatenate or join that again with the tilde sign, and class. Okay, I missed out the double quotes over here, then not over here, okay, over here, okay, and then plus again the same character, and I will say section. And let us just close this now, and now you can see this is the right method. So this plus the tilde, name, tilde, class, tilde sign, and the section looks perfect. Okay, we will just write this now. With this particular statement, this data will be written onto the file, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it back. Now how I'm going to read it back? So simple. I'm going to use the file handle and read line. So since this, okay, I'll just end this with a slash n, because every record will be stored on the next line. Okay, so I will read that one particular line. So that one particular line, so what that line will represent a record, isn't it? So this one line will represent a complete record. So read line, so I'll just read this line, and then I'm just going to display. So this will return a string, so I'll just collect that into a variable that is s, and then I will simply print s. Now let us see what output do we get. So let us run this and see the output. Okay, so I give something like 12 and name as like Ajay, and then I class is maybe 8 and section is A, and you can see we had no output over here. Okay, why we did not have the output? Okay, let us see whether the file got created at student.txt. So we will just check. Okay, and you can see, okay, there is file is not written over here. Okay, now there are two things that I need to tell you. Is you cannot see the data, but the data is present. I'll tell you why. Okay, I'll close this again, because I did not close the file first thing. Okay, and what you need to do is, okay, there are two things that I need to tell you. First thing is, when we wrote the data, this particular line onto the file, that is student.txt, the file pointer is pointing at the end of the file. I told you that whenever we use this function, okay, so or even if you are writing this, so basically it wrote this string onto the file, and now the file pointer has come to the next line since we are given a slash n. So the file pointer is basically at the second line, which actually there's no line, just it is come to the next line, right? And then when I try to read that line, so it is a blank line, there is nothing into this, and so we had no output. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to use a seek function. That is a seek function, and I gave 0 over here. So what will happen over here is the seek method. This is basically a method associated with the file handler. So the seek function basically will take the file pointer back to the beginning of the file. Okay, so the seek function basically takes the pointer back to the beginning of the file, and then I want that file pointer to point to the 0th index, or the 0th character. So that will be the first character, not the index, the character, the 0, that is the first character basically. Okay, and then I read this file, and now then we will display it, and then we'll close this. Okay, so let us just see whether this runs or not. I'll just give 12 and name, and class is 8, section is A, and you can see over here we had the output. Okay, that is 12, and then we have this tilde character, and then the name, and now you can see that this is, we can understand this, what exactly this is. This is the roll number, this is the name, this is the the class, and this is the section, isn't it? And one more thing that I need to tell you is, it just did not show the output, the output file, but at times, okay, if I just we'll go to the text file and see the student file, and now it will show you the output over here. But at times what happens when you're doing the reading and writing both, okay, so once you write this file, now this function write, this method basically writes the output to a particular buffer. Okay, it doesn't directly go to the hard disk. It doesn't directly go to that physical location. The data does not get dumped over there unless and until you actually close this file. Okay, then Python will dump that data onto the physical location, that is the hard disk. Okay, so what you can do is, in between you can dump the data using the flush method. So this method, what it will do, it will actually when we write something, it gets written onto a computer buffer, and from that buffer then we forcefully write that data or dump that data onto the hard disk. So this function is for that. Okay, so you can use this function. So it's better to use this when you're doing a lot of reading and writing simultaneously, things are going. So whenever you perform any write operation, it is better to just write that particular data onto the hard disk, transfer from buffer to the hard disk, and then you can perform the read operations. Okay, so let us run this one more time, and we have 12. Okay, I just wrote something went wrong, just a minute. Okay, let us give this 12, name, class is 4, section is A. Okay, and here it is the data. Okay, let us make this as that append mode, and now we will do the operation. That is maybe 24, maybe J, and maybe 2 and C. Okay, so here now you can see when we wrote the second record, and but only the first record got displayed. Why? Because we are just using this, we are just reading the first line, and the first line is the first record. And if you see the file out here, that is student.txt. So student.txt is over here. Now over here it is not showing you. Just a minute, I'll just show the second record also. Using the second record. Okay, it is actually physically present. You once just close it, and again you just open it, and it will show you over here. So we have both the records actually. Okay, So now what we will do is we can just do this in a way where customer can enter as many records as the user, I mean to say, as the user wants, and then we will display all the record. Okay, so so simple. Just use a while loop, give a character something like maybe y. Okay, and so this, if ch is equal to y, then continue the loop and then just adjust the indentation. So this comes under this while loop. Have a ch character as y before the while loop, and so this will keep on accepting, but then I need to perform this operation inside this loop. Okay, so we'll perform these operations, and then I just need to delete it from here, and then I will go back to the beginning of the file, and I want it to point to the zeroth to the first character. So I need to have the 0 means it will point to the first character. So understand. Okay, so this is again, I've just summarized this seek function. So whenever we perform any write operation, the file pointer keeps on moving ahead. So when we write one string, so the file pointer comes to the next line, and next line is a blank line, so it will keep on writing and always it will point to the next line. So we need to get that file pointer to the beginning of the file, and then we will start reading it. Okay, so for reading operation also I just need to have the same logic that we had used last time. I will just use s, and I say while s. Okay, and before the loop starts, just use this function, bring the file pointer to the beginning of the file, and then perform this operation. Okay, that is s, and then you print it. Okay, and I want, it does not, okay, it should not, should go to the next line, means there will be one more space. Okay, okay, we'll just keep it as it is at this point, and then we will close the file. Okay, so everything looks fine. One thing left is accepting the yes no from the user. So I say ch, and I say input, do you want to continue? Okay, and I'll just say something like for the user, like yes slash no, and that's it. Okay, so let us run this and we will see the output. So now this is under a loop, so it will read line by line and it will display it. Okay, so let us run this one more time. Okay, I just close this and open it once again for a new screen, and we will read it like 45. Name is Jack, class is 2, name A. Do you want to continue? Yes, and again it went. Roll number 67. 67 shouldn't be the roll number, isn't it? So one class can have max of maybe 30 to 40 students, but still. Okay, so then I have some name like Lennox, and maybe class as 5. Do you want to continue? No, I don't want to continue. And you can see all the records, even the previous records got displayed. You can see out here, isn't it? So this is how you can read the file, and first we can write the records, and at the same times you can read the records, and you can write the you can read the records and display those records onto the screen. So this is how you can perform. So before we end, one more thing about the seek function. So there are like modes, like this is a 0 mode. So by default it is a 0 mode. This one more argument that it takes. So this means that it will take the file pointer from beginning of the file, and it will point to the first character. So if I give something like 5 over here, 5 comma 0, so it will go to the beginning of the file, and from the beginning of the file it will point to the 5th character. This is what it means. Okay, and then if you want, we have one more mode, that is 1. So this means that from the current position it will move 5 characters ahead, 5 bytes ahead. Okay, and we also have 2. Now 2 means like from the end of the file. So from the end of the file I cannot have 5, because from the end of the file I cannot move ahead, so I need to have minus over here. So from the end of the file I go back to minus to -5. So I will just move backward basically. Okay, so this is the thing. So uh, so let's see further my next tutorial what I can come up with. Bye for now.